This is, I think, absolutely the biggest issue going on right now, and very few people are talking about it, unfortunately. Net neutrality, which basically means that the internet service providers have to give equal access to everything online. It has been struck down by a court. This is really quite terrible. So let's look at the definition of just a basic definition of what net neutrality is. So it's the principle that all sites on the internet will be equally accessible. So if you have Time Warner, let's say, for internet, they can't slow down sites that they're not affiliated with. So the DC Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in Verizon's favor. The court said that because the FCC had previously placed broadband internet service in a separate regulatory category from phone service, it lacked legal justification to impose the open internet rules. Okay, so that's a lot of mumbo jumbo. But basically, Verizon wants to be able to control, if you have Verizon as your internet provider, they want to give you access to their stuff and their partners faster than other stuff. I think this is huge. This is so horrible.
Yeah,
and net neutrality is so important. This is, I really think this and the NSA are like the two defining things of our generation. Why isn't this a bigger deal?
No, it should be, especially because you just know that when this sort of power is put into the hands of conglomerates like Time Warner Cable, who I'm a subscriber to only because they're like a monopoly in my neighborhood, they're totally gonna exploit it, to the best of their ability. And I just think it's awful. It's terrible.
It is awful, but it's also shocking to me that the people who are making these decisions, these judges, do they understand what's going? I feel like it's the same. I have the same issue with it that I have whenever Congress gets involved in anything on the internet. It's like these people are laugh at the guy who comes in to give them, because he's a nerd, who comes in to give them information. I don't trust them to actually know the implications of what this means. I don't think these are people who are using the internet the same way that young people, or not even young people, adults now, the next generation of people are using the internet. And it is, the one silver lining is that it's been said that Comcast, for instance, is going to continue, has committed to continuing net neutrality through 2018, which does give us time to potentially legislate or find other routes to net neutrality. It's just court decisions like this make that a lot harder.
Yeah, so isn't this one of those stories that it goes to what we started with here, the Bieber thing and the eggs? That's the story that leads CNN.com the same day that net neutrality gets struck down, because it's too hard to explain. I think I did a pretty decent two-sentence job of it, but you'd have to actually understand some technical things as opposed to eggs on a window. My God.
Well, the implications are that a company like Time Warner could charge extra for HD YouTube streams or something like that, or give slower access to shopping sites if they decided to launch their own, right?
Right.
Which is terrible.
No, it's all terrible.
Yeah, it's awful. And the fact that we don't have a marketplace right now where you have options, you kind of alluded to that, but it's not like I can leave Time Warner tomorrow and go to Cablevision because they're not out here.
Yeah,
but
we're all Time Warner. Time Warner, me
Time
too.
Warner.
Yeah, and we're
have a
stuck with them.
choice.
I think maybe I have an AT&T choice, which I've heard is really bad for internet.
Yeah, there's no alternative.
And they already are terrible, in terms of customer service and things. I use them and I've had nothing but awful experiences with them.
Yeah,
and this would just turn the internet into cable TV, which is the problem, is that you can get a basic subscription that'll give you email and basic browsing. But then if you want Netflix, you have to pay this much. If you want, and nobody wants that. There's nobody but the conglomerates that want that. And this is another example of just nothing that is in the public's interest. There's no regular human being who's like, I actually prefer my internet being like that. And if that's the case, if there's no human being who's like, this is a better option, why would we do that?
That's actually a great point. Doesn't that go to everything we talk about with politics all the time here, is that they're making all these decisions and the last people that are involved are actually the people. Nobody wants this. I have yet to hear anyone outside of this judge, basically, and Comcast and Time Warner, the people that are going to profit from it, say this. Okay, do you guys think we're going to look back on the 20 years, let's say, that the internet has really existed since, let's say, the late 90s when, was it Netscape started the whole thing or whatever it was, a Prodigy. Do you think we're going to look back on it as the golden age of the internet, like we look back on the golden age of TV? Because now between this and the NSA, so now it's we got people watching us and they're controlling how fast we can get stuff, that the first 20 years when we didn't know they were watching and before they could control the access, you think we're going to look back and think, wow, it was pretty good, the Wild West?
I do. I also, maybe I'm naive. I still have hope that it's just not going to happen. Like, I think, and maybe that's the wrong message to send. Maybe the message to send is like, this guy is falling, this guy is falling.
Yeah.
Like, let's, people of America, do something. Like, but I think that at the end of the day, I look at what happened with like SOPA, and nobody cared. And then at the last minute, everybody realized how bad it was, and Congress like got in line and did the right thing temporarily.
Right, and I'm sure that's probably going to be flipped too at some point. So
It
sky is falling.
Yeah, but I do think that there's still time. Like, I don't think it's over yet. Like, and maybe that's naive. Maybe I'm the guy. It's the bottom of the ninth and we're down 30 runs, and I'm like, we can still do it, guys. But
Right.
I don't know.
What do you think we'll look at it back as the golden age? Don't you see the winds of change?
I'm always, I tend to be optimistic. I think, like, as is the case with most technologies, once the genie is out of the bottle, you can't easily put it back in. And so I think that, like, if people are really dissatisfied, as I'm assuming they will be, I don't think that they'll let it happen.
Yeah, and I think the other kind of X factor in all this is, yes, there are corporations like Comcast and Time Warner and Verizon who want to end net neutrality, but Google doesn't, Facebook doesn't,
100%.
and those are also giant companies with huge, Google specifically is also rolling out broadband in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And like that's going to change here in Los Angeles. Like, Google broadband is going to be a thing in a few years, and that's, could be maybe the answer to this is Google ends up being like, all right, fuck you guys. Like, we'll be the internet. Like,
Right. So there's your solution, people. We need an even bigger giant corporation to save us. Google Fiber, which I think is just in Kansas and maybe Texas right now, has to come and save us.